You're so well behaved on this show.
I know, I'm very well behaved. I'm very
expecting-
reverential for you. Ed, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
It's lovely.
Finally.
I've been trying to get you on my show for so long, but you're so busy and so successful. You're probably the biggest star I've ever had on my show, so thank you very much. We've known each other for a long time, so I'm really looking forward to talking to you about stuff. What we do on the show, I'm going to be playing some Ed tracks. He's going to be choosing some favourites of his, and I'm going to slip in a couple of tracks that I like too. I rang you up last Christmas and said, you should write a Christmas record.
I found the voice note from that day, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, because so Elton rung me Christmas Day and said, you should do a Christmas record. And I was like, I don't really know. And I said, would you do another one? And he said, well, if I did another one, it would have to be a duet. I'm not going to do another solo. So I said, oh, we should do it together. But then when we were planning it, I remember because Equals was coming out, I was like, maybe 2022, maybe 2023. And I, midway through the year, just realised why the would we postpone anything? Like, we're going to have a great Christmas together. We had such fun shooting the music video, and it's so good. I love it so much.
It's a very up record after a pretty miserable year. And I love recording. We actually wrote the song Next Door.
Yeah.
And two others, which you may see the light of day soon as well, maybe next year.
I think next year, yeah. Pull My Christmas Cracker.
There's one called Pull My Christmas Cracker.
You'll get more than a bang.
And you will get more than a bang, exactly. This is from your very first album, Plus, which we all lived through because at that time our organisation was managing you. And it was such a wonderful, wonderful debut record. And I remember this song so well because you played the Nokia Theatre in Los Angeles. On what birthday was it?
It's my 22nd birthday.
Your 22nd?
Yeah.
Wow, 8 years ago. And I'm sitting there, we went with Adele and I were there together. And we went out to see your show, and you were dressed up as something, right?
I was a pirate, yeah. It was a fancy dress.
Of course you were. And when you played the song, we both wept because it is the most beautiful song. But it's not entirely a happy song, is it?
No, it's a song that was written basically about a friend's miscarriage. And I wrote it when I was probably 18. And it was one of these things. I mean, like, I found most of the album is basically me entering into the real world. I grew up in the middle of the countryside in Suffolk. Never really seen poverty, never really seen drug addiction, never really seen... I didn't really experience anything. I was just living in the middle of the countryside, and then moving to London, suddenly all these sort of real life things came out, and that's where the A-Team comes from, where the city comes from, where Small Bump comes from, and it's basically all of the songs were knee-jerk reactions to situations happening around me, basically.
You've chosen a song by Fireboy DML. What's this song about?
So I got sent this a week ago. A friend of mine, Jamal, who runs SBTV, sent it to me. He said, Fireboy DML would love you on the remix of this song. It's a song that's blowing up in Nigeria and Ghana at the moment, and their club scene runs over Christmas. Okay. So you basically put a song to the club in the middle of December, which would seem a weird thing to do in England. But yeah, so I've done the remix for this song, but this is the original, and it's an earworm, and it's addictive, and I'm obsessed with it. I mean, Cherry will tell you I've had this song on repeat constantly in the house for the last week.
Wow. I'm going to choose another new song from Equals. This is a beautiful ballad, which when you played me the album, I really thought this was incredible. The Joker and the Queen, it's called. The original doesn't have anybody on it except yourself, but I think it will have someone else on it.
There is a duet version of it with someone on it, but it's not all... Like, I basically need to work out when it's coming, and then it'll all get signed off.
Black Sabbath was something I wouldn't expect you to choose. Why have you chosen Black Sabbath?
Me and my daughter do vinyl breakfast every single day, where over lockdown I got super into vinyl. I know you're super into vinyl too, but I basically would get up with her in the morning, I'd make her breakfast, and then we'd sit down and eat porridge together and listen to a vinyl, and this is her favourite. She just loves this album. When I read your autobiography, I'm not really a big autobiography reader, but when I read yours, I was like, man, that was so interesting. I'm going to buy some more. So I read yours, I read Phil Collins, I read Ozzy's, and Ozzy's...
He's hilarious.
Oh my God.
He is such a character.
There's a bit where he gets given a load of chickens to look after because he's so, like, out of it. He gets given chickens and they say, right, Ozzy, look after these chickens. We're going to go away for a bit. And he's like, cool, I got it. and then his family leave, and then he just covers the chickens in petrol, sets fire to them, and shoots them all with shotguns. I'm like, what the
Yes, he's up for the Humane Award of the Year there. Brandy Carlisle and the Mother is one of my favourite tracks from By the Way, I Forgive You. Why have you chosen it?
I met Brandy with you, yeah. And that night, so we have mutual friends, me and Brandy, which is Courtney Cox, and Courtney is dating Johnny, who I made my record with. And there was this night in LA where Brandy and Elton both came round for dinner, and at the end of the night, do you want to say what happened? At the end of the night, we all got round.
We all got round and sang songs. Brandy played a couple of songs. You played a couple of songs on the guitar. And then she sang this song, and I was watching you as she was singing it, because it is the most beautiful song.
But it is exactly how you feel as a new parent. Like, exactly, like, and I think 5 years ago, I would have listened to this song and been like, that's beautiful. But now I listen to the song, and I mean, the first line of the first thing you took from me was selfishness and sleep. I mean, that is literally, I remember speaking to my dad about having a kid, and he was like, how are you finding it? And I just said, well, you just get less selfish, don't you? You just go, well, my decisions are no longer my own. I'm making them for my child. And I just think it's such an amazing reflection of parenthood. And there's so many songs that are written about being a first-time parent, and the knee-jerk reaction is obviously to pick up a guitar or get on a piano and write a song about it. But this is such a direct, perfect tune about being a parent, not just a mother, but just a parent. It's so good.
Brandy and Catherine, her wife, and her two kids, Evangeline and Elijah, came down and stayed with us in the south of France. We had the best week. And I'm thinking that it would make a great ensemble if you and Cherry and Lyra came down as well.
That would be beautiful, man.
Yeah, it would be amazing, because we had so much fun. They're really naughty and fabulous.
But you've known her for a very long time,
18
right?
years.
I mean, that's mad. And she's had her commercial breakthrough, you'd say, in the past sort of 3 years.
Yeah.
One thing that always has struck me about Elton is Elton knows so much about music. I remember even when I first signed to Rocket, you ringing me up, and I just put out the collaborations project, and you started talking to me about Devlin's album, and you were like, oh, I loved it. And just in my head, I was like, how do you know about all this music? And then Stuart, my manager, said you get the new releases every single week and you listen to everyone. You told me about Kid Laroi 3 years ago and said, watch out for that guy. And now he's the biggest artist in the world.
I know. Well,
On the ball.
On the ball. You've chosen Van Morrison and the Chieftains, and this is such a beautiful track. And it's called Irish Heartbeat, from the album of the same name. I know you were very much influenced by Van Morrison. Your parents love Van Morrison, right?
Yeah, so he's, so my dad is Irish, and my dad brought me up on, Planxty and people like the Chieftains, Waterson and Carthy, and, folk music. But this was the one album that sort of blended the two things that I loved the most, which was folk music, but also soul vocals. Yeah. And I've been in love with it since I listened to it on cassette in the car driving from Yorkshire. And it's just, I think it's top three, one of my favourite albums ever.
Other than Steps?
I've now ended up meeting him a few times, but my first meeting of Van Morrison was I played Belfast in 2014, January, and I'd gone out the night before and I'd got pretty heavily on it, and I got in at 5 o'clock in the morning and I was pissed, and I went to bed and I got woken up at 6 by a phone call by the hotel lobby being like, Van Morrison's downstairs, he'd love to say hi to you. And I remember being like, and just put the phone down. I get another call. No, Van Morrison is actually downstairs and he wants to say hi to you. And I was like, no, he's not. I kind of put the phone down again. It got to 7 a.m. and they rung us up, and he was like, he's going to leave if you don't come down. Van Morrison is down here. And I was like, fuck, it actually might be him. And I got out of bed, still pretty hazy, went and had a shower, got downstairs, and it was him. And he just literally turned up. We had a salmon and cream cheese bagel, and that was it. That was our first meeting, but it was so random. You can imagine you being, how old was I then? 20, no, I was still 22. And someone who is your biggest hero suddenly randomly rings you after one of your heavy nights in the 70s or whatever. What was your first encounter with one of your musical heroes?
Leon Russell at the Troubadour. On the second night I played, I was in the middle of Burn Down the Mission, and I saw him. And I went, oh! Because you can't miss that long white hair. And I was mortified because I thought he's going to tie me up and tell me how to play the piano. But he came back and he gave me a recipe for my voice, because my voice was a little hoarse. He said, you must always put cider vinegar, a spoonful of cider vinegar, a spoonful of honey and hot water, and stir it, the hottest water you can bear, to gargle with, and gargle with it for a minute or 2 minutes, and you'd be surprised what comes out of your throat. And I've always done that. So, but it was just I was so intimidated.
But in that situation, right, because I find myself with this, when people come to concerts that I admire, do you find yourself peacocking, where you go, oh, I've got to bring an extra 10%, and I've really got to, do you find...
No. I was a meek little soul then. Van Morrison and the Chieftains from 1988, and Irish Heartbeat, and of course Paddy, the leader of the Chieftains, just passed away about 3 weeks ago. So very sad, but it's a wonderful record. And Thinking Out Loud is from 2014. And when I heard it, I thought, God, this is such a song that Van Morrison could sing. It's from your second album, Multiply.
I remember being given the Guinness Book of Records record for the longest climb to #1, because it came out in June. And I remember it just sort of like, just every week it would just go up a place, or down 2 places, or up 3 places. And it ended up just climbing to #1, and then it just sort of stayed in the top 10 for a very long time. And this is pre-streaming. I mean, streaming songs really stick around now. But this was, I remember iTunes, it just stayed.
So you have something in common with Bryan Adams then?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to put a choice in now. Elvis Costello, and I know you just met Elvis Costello at the Royal Variety Show, right?
So do you know what's interesting that he said to me, because he stopped me just as I was leaving, and we had a long chat, and it was about you, because he said, Elton is to you, as in to me, what he was to me in the late 70s. He said when he was first starting out, you were at your absolute peak. And he said he'd had a couple of hits out, and you won an award, and you went on stage and you said, I don't deserve this award deserves to go to Elvis Costello. And he said it was from that point that people started really like taking him and his...
That's a nice...
Yeah, and you introduced him to his wife as well?
Yes, they came to one of my concerts at the Royal Opera House, and they got married at this house.
Incredible.
This is probably one of the most perfect pop records you'll ever hear. Came out in 2017, it's from the album Divide. I get the midweek charts every day, and it still appears in the charts practically every week. Shape of You was, I think, your most streamed record, right?
It is the most streamed record in the world. I mean, Weekend's Blinding Lights is catching up to it. And I remember really clearly playing this to you in the basement of Rocket Management when I played you the whole of Divide, and this one's standing out the most.
You've chosen Foy Vance, who I love so much. And you've chosen a live performance of I Will Be.
Yeah, so this song...
His Live in London album, right?
So, yeah, I mean, this song isn't actually officially recorded. I basically have known Foy personally for about 10 years, but I've been a fan of Foy for about 15 years. He is someone I used to watch avidly at gigs. I used to turn up to his gigs with my dad. I used to wait around at the end of the gig, get my CD signed. Like, I've been a massive fan of him, and then I got to know him. I took him on tour. We've been writing songs together, and I remember staying up at his house in Aberfeldy in 2011 or 2012, and he had just got out of a divorce, quite heavy, and he sat down and played this song on the piano and made me cry. And I remember just being like, that is one of the most powerful songs I've ever heard. And then when he signed to my record label, I just kept nudging him, being like, where is it? Like, the world needs to hear this song. And he did it as a live performance on this live record, and it's the one place in the world that this song exists. But I really feel like he knows this anyway. I've been nudging him for
It is a beautiful song.
So nice.
Foy is from Bangor, Northern Ireland, and if anyone of you out there hasn't seen him or heard his record, then I suggest you go out and investigate him, because he's a magnificent songwriter, a huge character.
I think he's my favourite out of like that. I think he's my favourite act ever. And to watch live and to listen on record, he's just phenomenal.
Thank you for joining us. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Thank you for listening to The Rocket Hour. I am Elton John. It's been my pleasure to have Ed Sheeran on the show. Merry Christmas, and that's it.